Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be looking at the updated list for ShineGreymon, and ShineGreymon is definitely still looking to be a very powerful deck, considering he's still just doing the same thing that he's always been doing. It's just with the BT04 or Great Legend updates, he definitely got a lot of really good new and powerful tools that he has access to just help him be able to control the board and have a lot of pressure and board presence against the opponent. There's just a whole bunch of different ways that you could build ShineGreymon, and I still think ShineGreymon is a very, very powerful deck, and this is just my version of the deck. Going into the deck, starting with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Upamon. So Upamon is really good because he gives this nice inheritable ability where when attacking once per turn, if your security is 3 or less, then you get to draw 1 card. So drawing cards is very powerful because it helps you dig through your deck faster and allows you to see more cards you want to see. So Upamon being one of the better Digitama to draw us cards is the reason why we're maxing out on Upamon. Then as far as the 5th Digitama of the deck, it's going to be 1 copy of the new Koromon. So Koromon is pretty good. He's doing something really similar to Upamon, except his when attacking ability is once per turn. If your security is 3 or less, then one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 1000 DP. So where Upamon is drawing us a card, Koromon is basically helping us remove the opponent's Digimon by reducing their DP. You could try playing around with the ratios for these two. It doesn't necessarily matter a whole lot considering they are filling very similar roles and they are both very, very powerful Digitama that synergize well with the deck. Next on to the rookies, I'm running 4 copies of Tsukaimon. So this is just the value vanilla rookie. There really isn't much else to him. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Patamon. So this version of Padamon is really powerful for the deck because he has a nice on-play ability where you get to check the top 4 and then add all yellow tamers among them into your hand and then the rest go onto the bottom. So we are going to be running a lot of yellow tamers, so being able to grab not only just 1 but potentially multiple yellow tamers is definitely really, really good, and because ShineGreymon is a tamer-focused deck, we definitely want to see our tamers, so Patamon just is really, really good for helping us see our tamers. Next, I'm running 2 copies of Labramon. So Labramon is a really, really powerful Digimon where it gives a nice inheritable ability of during your turn. If one of your opponent's Digimon is destroyed by having their DP reduced to 0, then you get to draw 1 card. The only unfortunate thing, and this is kind of like why I'm running it at 2, is it did get nerfed with ShineGreymon because they did make a rules change to ShineGreymon where his effect all happens at the same time. So that means that you only get 1 Labramon draw off of ShineGreymon if he is able to destroy more than 1 of the opponent's Digimon. So that's the only unfortunate thing, but Labramon is still very, very good and very, very powerful because all the deck is trying to do is just destroy the opponent's Digimon by reducing their DP to 0, and Labramon draws us a card for doing that, and as I mentioned before with Upamon, drawing cards is very, very good. So we still definitely want to run Labramon. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Patamon. So this is the starter deck Patamon, and the starter deck Patamon is doing something very, very similar to Labramon, where it is giving a nice, powerful, inheritable ability that synergizes with the fact that we are destroying our opponent's Digimon by reducing their DP to 0, except instead of drawing a card with Labramon, we get to gain 1 memory off of this Patamon, and that's still a very, very powerful play. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 4 copies of GeoGreymon. So GeoGreymon is pretty good because he has this nice inheritable ability that he gives, where when attacking, if you have 3 or more yellow tamers in play, then one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 2000 DP until the end of the turn. So this is just another really good card to help try to control the opponent's board, because if you stack it up with some more powerful effects, then it just helps clear out some larger threats. So GeoGreymon is definitely really good for helping control the board. Next, I'm running 4 copies of Tsukaimon. So Tsukaimon is really only in here for the Evo cost of 1, just so we could get into our higher stages faster, and that's really all we care about of the card. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Pitomon. So Pitomon is pretty good because, similar to Tsukaimon, we really care about the fact that it has an evo cost of 1, but we also like Pitomon because he is the blocker of the deck, and having a blocker in the deck is still really, really important. Next, on to the ultimates, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Red RizeGreymon. So this version of RizeGreymon is really, really powerful because he could evolve off of yellow or red. The majority of our deck is yellow. On top of which, during our turn, this card is also treated as yellow, so we could still use him to Digivolve into all of our Megas, which is really, really good. And then he also has the main ability of Digiburst 2. So with Digiburst, you can trash any 2 cards from its Digivolution source to trigger the ability, and its ability is that you get to play a red or yellow tamer card for free that costs 4 or less from your hand. So this is just really important because this is kind of the big way on how we're playing a lot of our tamers. We're just trying to Digivolve up into RizeGreymon to just have RizeGreymon be able to play our tamers, and we don't necessarily care about the Digiburst mechanic on losing to evolution sources because depending on how we Digivolve up, it doesn't necessarily matter because, like, if we use Tsukaimon and Tsukaimon, they're not giving any inheritable effects anyway, on top of which if we raw played a Patamon and Digivolve it up, Patamon's not giving any effects anyway, so like, we have ways where Digiburst just doesn't really feel bad to use just because of some of the other cards that we're playing. And then on top of all this, he even has his own inheritable effect that he gives, where he gives a nice when attacking ability, where if we have a tamer in play, then one of our opponent's Digimon gets minus 2000 DP. So this is pretty powerful because if we pair that up with, let's just say, GeoGreymon, then when we attack, then one of the opponent's Digimon could get minus 4,000, or we could split the 2 separate instances of 2,000, and then if we choose not to use his Digiburst ability, then we can have Koromon in his evolution source also, and that's just another extra minus 1,000, so he just adds a lot of extra removal potential on a lot of our Megas. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 4 copies of the other RizeGreymon. So the yellow RizeGreymon is pretty good because he has this nice when Digivolving ability where we get to play 1 yellow tamer from our hand for free, but the only problem is the tamer doesn't get any of its on-play effects, which we don't necessarily care too much about it. We just care more about it being able to get a tamer onto the field, so that way we could utilize ShineGreymon as effectively as we possibly can. And then he also has this nice inheritable ability where during our turn, if we have 3 or more yellow tamers in play, then he gets security attack +1. So he just makes whatever mega we're Digivolving into that much more dangerous, on top of being able to play our tamers is really, really important. And that's kind of why, like, we're doubling down on the RizeGreymons, is because we always want to be able to play a tamer for free from our hand, no matter which RizeGreymon we use. Next, on to the megas. I'm going to be running 2 copies of SlashAngemon. So SlashAngemon is in here just because he has a nice powerful when Digivolved ability, where one of our opponent's Digimon gets minus 8,000 DP until the end of the turn. He just has the largest removal effect on the Digivolution ability. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of ShineGreymon. So ShineGreymon is the main mega of the deck. This is the whole card the deck is centered around, and ShineGreymon is just a really, really powerful Digimon in general when set up and when built correctly. So what this Digimon is doing is he has a nice powerful when Digivolved ability where you can rest any number of yellow tamers, and for each yellow tamer rested, you get the following effect. And the following effect is one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 4,000 DP until the end of the turn. So the more yellow tamers you have, the more instances of minus 4,000, which leads you to be able to toolbox how you want to be able to remove and deal with the opponent's board. So if the opponent has a whole bunch of small things, then you could potentially use the ability to remove a whole bunch of small things, or you could stack it up and remove one potential big thing, on top of which, if you pair it up with some of these when attacking abilities to continuously reduce the opponent's Digimon's DP, it allows you to just really deal with and handle a lot of the opponent's Digimon in a whole bunch of various fashions. And then on top of all of that, he even has a nice powerful ability where during your turn, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP for every tamer you have in play. So the more tamers you have, the bigger his DP gets, which means he'll even be able to just hit the security and not really worry about security checks just because his DP could potentially be large enough. And then the last mega of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Chaosmon Volderarm. So Chaosmon Volderarm is a really powerful level 7 that Yellow can utilize because he has 2 really strong abilities. So his first ability is he has, when Digivolved, you get to use the following effect twice. So one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 7,000 DP until the end of the turn. So similar to ShineGreymon's effect, this is working the similar way, where it's minus 7,000 and you get 2 instances of this. So you could use it to kill 2 smaller things or medium-sized things, or you could use it to kill 1 large thing. So just the utility allows him to be very powerful. And then on top of which, he even has a nice on deletion ability where you get to gain 3 memory. So the on deletion ability is really nice because Chaosmon already puts a whole bunch of pressure onto the opponent, and if they're able to respond and be able to delete Chaosmon, then you basically get to take away 3 of their memory, or if Chaosmon is attacking and he is deleted in a security check, then you'll be able to gain 3 memory to make your plays that much more powerful. So regardless, Chaosmon is just a very powerful level 7 for the deck. And then as far as tamers go, I'm only going to be running 2 different types of tamers. The first one is going to be 4 copies of TK. So this TK is really powerful because he is our memory fixing tamer. So if our memory is 2 or less, then it becomes 3, which allows us to play basically a lot of our cards more efficiently. On top of which, he has this nice powerful when played ability or on play ability, where you get to check your security and then reveal 1 card among them and then add that card into your hand. If it's yellow, then you get to recover 1, and then you shuffle your security. So this is really good because his on play or when play basically lets you utilize your security to just help fix your hand, so that way you could see the cards that you want and try to pull cards out of your security. And then the last tamer card of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Kari. So Kari is pretty good just because she has this static ability where at the start of your turn, if your security is 3 or less, then you get to gain 1 memory. So this is pretty good because if you have multiple Karis out, then you'll just be able to gain a butt ton of memory at the beginning of your turn if your security is 3 or less, which if the opponent is trying to aggress into you, it's not necessarily going to be super hard. Or if you want to tweak the deck to be able to get yourself to 3 or less, then you can do that as well. So there's just a whole bunch of ways that Kari can be utilized to just be able to gain a whole bunch of memory, and that's just really good because some of our cards are a little on the expensive side. And then in terms of other options of other cards that you could play, there's just a whole bunch of different ways that you could build the deck, and the deck has a whole bunch of really interesting synergies that are all very powerful. So as I mentioned before, you could use some of the cards that reduce your own security to get yourself into that security threshold to trigger some of the other abilities. So those are all cards that you could possibly think about. And then you could also think about running some other cards. So if you want more card draw in the form of inheritable abilities on your rookies, then Agumon is really good for that because he just synergizes with the fact that you need to have yellow tamers on the field. And then he gives the nice when attacking ability of being able to draw a card if you do. So he's just more card draw on the rookie slot. If you really want to play more into the recovery side of things, you could run Salomon. So Salomon's really good because she has this nice when destroyed ability. If you have 3 or less security, then you get to recover 1. So if we're afraid that we are taking too much damage or we're dealing too much damage to ourselves, Salomon is great for helping us recover. If we want to play a little bit more into some of the aggressive strategies, Bushi Agumon is really powerful because of the rush ability, and because we have a whole bunch of different ways of gaining memory, it's not necessarily super hard to hit 5 memory to be able to play him to get the rush ability off. And then we also have Kilomon. So Kilomon is a pretty interesting tech card where you wouldn't really want to run a whole lot of him, but like he's a good card to have in your security because if he is revealed in the security, then you just get to play him for free, and a free level 4 just sounds really, really good to me. And then, like I said, you could also run Unimon. So Unimon could be in the blocker slot, or if you want, you could just run Unimon with Pitomon and have multiple different blockers. And that's just something really, really powerful to think about, just because yellow has some extra blockers that they could play around with. If you want to go for some more value stuff, you could run more value efficient vanilla cards. So cards like Sirenmon are really good just because, again, low play cost, low evo cost. So that way you could get into your higher levels that much more efficiently. You could also play some of the unplayed cards to, again, just try to skip a whole bunch of lower levels and just go straight into your big boys. So SlashAngemon is really good because he has a nice when or on played effect where you get to recover 1. So if you're playing a little bit more into the self-dealing strategy to get yourself to 3, then SlashAngemon's also good at recovering. And then on top of which, he has a nice inheritable where for every 3 security that you have, the Digimon gets plus 1000 DP. Most of the time, you're only going to get the 1000 DP, but sometimes that 1000 does matter. And then you could also run Mistymon also as another on-play Digimon, because Mistymon has a nice, powerful on-play ability, where 2 of the opponent's Digimon get minus 3000 DP until the end of the turn. So again, if the opponent is trying to play a go-wide strategy, then Mistymon is a really good hard counter to that, because he'll be able to pick off some of the opponent's Digimon. And then again, you could pair it up with some other minus DP effects to really kind of just get some good control going. You could also think about running Angelwoman. So this version of Angelwoman is very, very powerful because she has a nice when Digivolved ability where one of the opponent's Digimon gets security attack -2. So again, if you're afraid that they are aggressing on your security too hard, Angelwoman is really, really good for stopping that. On top of which, she also gives a nice inheritable ability of when attacking, if your security is 3 or less, then you get to play a level 3 yellow Digimon from your hand for free. So this is really good because in the deck it already combos with Padamon, so we could check for more tamers. And then on top of which, if we are changing up the deck, we could also play this in combination with Bushi Agumon to just be able to aggress onto the opponent a little bit harder. So Angelwoman is just a very fantastic Digimon to think about. We could also be running the red ShineGreymon. So the red ShineGreymon is pretty powerful because we could utilize him off of both of our RizeGreymons because he has the Evo ability to just evolve off of yellow or red. So it doesn't necessarily matter that we're not playing much other red Digimon outside of the red Rise because of how he can Digivolve. And then on top of which, he has a nice, really powerful ability where during your turn, when your red or yellow tamer cards are suspended, then this Digimon gains security attack +1. So this is really, really powerful just because you could have red ShineGreymon sitting on the field, Digivolve up into yellow ShineGreymon, rest a whole bunch of your tamers down, and then ShineGreymon will be getting security attack +1 for each of those, so he could potentially swing for all of the opponent's security or the vast majority of the opponent's security. So he's just really good to be able to deal lots of damage to the opponent. You could also run Magnadramon as another complementary mega, just because Magnadramon is another very good mega. She has a very powerful on-play ability, where if your security is 3 or less, then you get to recover 2. So again, if you're really afraid of the opponent being able to hit your security, and you're really afraid of their aggression, then Magnadramon just helps stop some of the aggression by healing you. And then on top of which, she has a nice when attacking ability where you get to play a level 3 yellow Digimon from your hand for free. So similar to all the reasons why you would consider Angelwoman, you'd consider Magnadramon. And then another good complementary mega that you could run would be the new RizeGreymon. So this RizeGreymon is really, really powerful because he has this nice on-attacking ability. Once per turn, you could add the top card of your security stack to your hand, and then unsuspend this Digimon, and one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 6000 DP. So this is really good because, again, minusing DP is basically what the deck is trying to do, on top of which you get multiple attacks off with RizeGreymon, so you could utilize all of the when attacking abilities multiple times to get multiple triggers off of those abilities because of WarGreymon, on top of which WarGreymon is also reducing your own security, and the security is going into your hand. So he's effectively drawing you a card as well, on top of lowering your security, so that way you could put yourself into those security thresholds. If you want to run some option cards, there are a couple of different option cards that you could run, but I really like Glorious Burst for the deck, just because even though it has a really high cost, it has a nice ability to reduce the cost for every yellow tamer you have in play. So if you have, let's just say, 4 yellow tamers in play, then this is a 5-cost option card, and that's just really powerful for what this card does. What the card does is it has the main ability of one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 12,000 DP until the end of the turn. So this could potentially clear a whole bunch of different megas that could be very, very threatening. And again, you could pair this up with some other minus DP effects to just be able to clear almost anything in the game. And that's just really, really powerful to think about. The only unfortunate thing about the card is the fact that it doesn't have any security effect, but the main effect is so powerful and you have ways of grabbing it out of your security that you're not super worried about it being in the security. And then as far as other yellow tamers go, you could run Tsukaimon. And then another tamer you could also think about is running the starter deck TK. So as I mentioned, there's just a whole bunch of different cards that you could use and in combination with to utilize in a ShineGreymon deck to really just do a whole bunch of very powerful and very interesting things. So for the most part, this is just a good generalization of a ShineGreymon deck, and I think ShineGreymon, again, is still going to be a very, very powerful deck, and he definitely has a whole bunch of different options and tools that you could utilize to build your own version of ShineGreymon and still have some very decent and powerful results. So that's really all I have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below. I'll also have the deck list in the description below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. And I'll see you in the next video.